continuing from the theme from last week, we talked about gold pans. I decided this week we may as well talk about my classifiers. We're just discussing in the river prospecting. We're not talking about hard rock mines, because that's a different story where they want it as small and fine dust as possible. We're just talking about prospecting in rivers, not even mining really, it's just prospecting. But we all want to get as much gold as we can. In the UK we call a classifier a sieve or a strainer, but the worldwide term is a classifier, and it's just to classify material into smaller and larger objects. And obviously the larger objects nowadays is going to be stones and rocks. We don't want stones and rocks that haven't got any gold. They might have gold stuck to them, but they definitely haven't got any gold in them. So we want to throw the rocks away. So reasons to classify. With regards to gold panning, you can concentrate the material in the pan. So you fill your gold pan with heaps of material, you classify it, get rid of the rocks, you've got a third of a pan left. You can do it again and again, so you end up with like 3 pans worth of material concentrated in your gold pan, which means you're going to have more gold in the pan. And then you've only got to do 1 pan instead of 3 pans. So that's sort of the theory behind classifying for the panning experience. I've also got reasons why it's not so great as well, but we'll go into them in a bit. With regards to sluicing, you want to take the larger rocks out because in the flow of the sluice, the larger rocks can draw the tiny bits of gold out with them in the slipstream or the eddies behind the rocks as they flow down the sluice. So when people talk about sluice losses, a lot of it is gold just travelling out with the larger material if you haven't classified it down enough. So that is a reason for classifying with a sluice. But I've also got reasons for not classifying with a sluice. So what is a classifier? It's basically like a pan with holes in the bottom. And the holes come in various sizes. From very small, like in a kitchen strainer, sieve, to very large. This is my favourite classifier, by the way, 1 inch. It is a bit too big really. So we're talking about sizes, mesh size, or the size of the hole in millimetres with respect in the UK. So I've got various types here of classifiers. They're plastic and metal mainly. This one I think my grandfather made. I'm not sure what it's made of, I think it's wood. I don't know. It's stood the test of time because that must be 1950s or 40s. Let's go through my classifiers. With the smallest first, which is the kitchen strainer, the kitchen sieve. And this will classify down to 0.5 millimetre. Very fine. I've never needed to classify that small myself. Then we've got my granddad's old sieve, his classifier. I'm sure it'll be handy one day, but I haven't used it yet. Maybe if I'm crushing hard rock stuff up, this might be useful. It's about 1 millimetre. We're up to 3 millimetres. I bought this one by accident, and I have used it in some of my videos when I'm crushing rocks and stuff. It's good for beach sand, but it doesn't get too much use. I found this one in the shed the other day. I haven't used it yet. So this is what we call quarter inch or 6 mil. I'm not sure what mesh size that is. It's made of steel. It's solid. That's pretty old as well, I reckon. Then we've got a proper gold classifier. This is sold as a gold classifier. These are all garden implements really for soil, I would say. And that's obviously a kitchen strainer. I think this was sold as a dedicated gold pan, but I was expecting something like that and it came like that. But I have made use of it a little bit. So we're up to, that was 1/4 inch, and this is the recommended panning size, classifying size by Dan Hurd. I think I've watched plenty of his videos where he says classify down to 1/4 inch. In my opinion, that is wasting far too much time. I'd rather be panning or sluicing with larger stones in there than I would spending ages classifying down to 6mm. This is what I would recommend everyone get. It's the 1/2 inch. The 1/2 inch Garrett, I think it comes with one of the Garrett kits. And this is what I go out hiking with my Garrett Gold Trap. This is generally the best size to have, I think. It's the best average from going too small or too large. So if you're starting out, I'd go for a 1/2 inch or even 10mm. This is what I started with. This is a garden classifier, 10mm. You're not going to find many nuggets more than 10mm in size. But if you are going to use one of these, always check your classifier for nuggets, because you can easily throw it away. But they're rare, so you're unlikely. And then we get to my 1 inch. Many people laugh at this. Why the hell are you using that? But for my circumstances, this is the one to use. Where I work, generally, you've got to know your ground to decide what classifier you're going to use. And the ground where I work is lots of flat stones, and they layer up together like stone wall, basically. And if I tried to classify my area with a 1/4 inch or the 1/2 inch, I'd be there forever trying to shake the material out between the flat stones. But with the 1 inch classifier, it does it really fast. So it's time saving for me. Even though I'm including larger rocks in my pan or sluice with no gold, I can actually move a lot more material than I would be able to in the same time as classifying it further down. I did use an old, look, I've got another 1/4 inch ring that I can put in there. It's the same, it will go down, but I thought I was going to use it, but look how rusty it is. I've never needed it. It's no point to waste my time with that. So these are my classifiers. I started off with this one. It's still good. These are really cheap, readily available on eBay. I can't remember how much they are. Probably 10 quid. Plenty of them. There's plenty of metal ones as well. You can watch the video on this channel where I smash that out and weld the 1 inch mesh in. I'll leave a link in the description for how to make the 1 inch classifier. So yeah, so that's the one I first bought. It's still going strong. I have lost a couple of these down the river over the years. They float and go off like a boat if you're not watching. They're cheap enough. Then I bought the Garrett kit one day, and I find this classifier really good. And the reason it's good is because of the slanted sides, the same as a gold pan. It sits in the pan nicely, and if you're doing bucket sluicing, it sits in the bucket nicely. Whereas these round ones with straight sides tend to get stuck in the bucket, and it's a real pain to get them out. And you'll see me in my videos struggling with that sometimes. Oh, and another thing with the metal one, with this 1 inch, if I drop this, it sinks, it doesn't float off. So that's another thing I like about this one. So the reasons for, let's do reasons for and against classifying. I can only think of 2 reasons why I'd want to classify. And that's one, with regards to the gold pan, is to concentrate the materials, expel any rocks that don't hold gold. And so you're getting 3 pans worth of material in 1 pan. But then it's going to take you longer to pan that, because once you classify materials into a pan and all the material becomes the same size, it does actually take longer to pan that pan. What's the second reason we want to classify? With regards to sluicing, we want to remove the larger stones to stop them drawing out the smaller specks of gold with them in the flow. So when you hear of sluice losses, a lot of that is gold being drawn out with larger material, which is the main reason for classifying down. And then there's another reason. If you've got multiple people on the same place, then one can be classifying, one can be sluicing, one can be digging. Then it really does work well, and it's worth doing. But if you're on your own, I think it weighs up to be, you don't need to classify as much. Now I do classify, but I only classify with a large 1" because I described the type of material I'm dealing with. And when I'm using a drop riffle sluice, the drop riffle acts as a slide. So anything that's over ½ just slides straight down the slide and out anyway. So it self-classifies. So that puts out a reason for not really, that's the reason why I use a drop riffle, because there's no need, it eliminates the need for classifying because the sluice does it for you. And a lot of people don't understand that. And they think the Angus McKirk is a drop riffle, and it really isn't a drop riffle. A true drop riffle is like sluicing for gold cells. The old geo sluices were troughs, and it's got a flat surface with the troughs are catching the gold below the surface, whereas most sluices have riffles which protrude above the surface. So then you do need to classify. Volumetric efficiency. What is volumetric efficiency? So let's say you're on the, I average on the river 5 or 6 hours. Let's call it 6 hours. You've got 6 hours on the river to dig, classify and sluice your material. So a lot of time is spent getting the material together, depending on what the ground's like. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. But you're going to spend so many hours getting the material. Then you've got so many hours to classify or sluice. Now, when you're getting gold, it doesn't matter whether you're gold mining or sluicing or working in a river, whatever. It's all about how much material can you get through, because there's going to be so much gold. In America, they call it yardage. I don't know if we call it tonnage here or whatever, but it's how much of that material you can move will have a percentage of gold in it. So if you've only got 6 hours on the river and you can put through 20 buckets through your sluice without classifying, you're probably going to get more gold than if you spent 2 hours out of that 6 classifying all your material down to concentrate it, but you're going to end up with less gold because you've lost 2 hours of classifying and concentrating your material. Whereas if you just sluiced it all, even with the larger rocks, you're covering more area with more chance of getting more gold. Even though you're including rocks that don't contain gold, you're going to actually cover more area. So for me, just the less classifying the better. The reason I use that 1" sluice is just to take out the larger rocks so it doesn't draw the smaller gold out as much. I will get some losses obviously, but to me, you've got to weigh it up. Do you want to spend times classifying it down and getting it real fine, concentrating that gold? Or do you just want to move a serious amount of material and take your chance on covering more area? You're going to get more gold. They're the two choices, really. I know what my choice is. I'd rather just try and get through as much material as I can. I do classify off the large rocks, but only down to that 1". I had the 1" mesh in my shed, so I would like 3/4, just that bit smaller. I think 3/4 is what would work best for me, but everyone's got their own situations. But if you're starting off, I'd go for the 10 or 12 mil. If you want to be real finicky, I'd classify down to 1/4", but I've never felt the need to do that. Depends what you're mining, I suppose, doesn't it? But I'm a prospector. I'm usually just trying to see if there is gold, or if I'm going for it, I will just try and move as much material as possible. It's a big thing to discuss, classifying. There's plenty of fors and againsts. I think I'm more against classifying than I am for it, but I think the general consensus is the other way around. You can let me know in the comments your feelings on classifying. I think it's generally a waste of time, but I will do it just to get rid of the larger rocks. And then it does include, you do need more equipment, like buckets. If you watch me, I generally use the river as my bucket and classify it in the river into a pan. I don't stand on the surface classifying into a bucket like you'll see in a lot of areas, and that's the case. I mean, in the UK, we're generally working within the watercourse. In America, they've got much larger rivers, and when the panning is the panning season, so the rivers are right down, and they're working on gravel bars, so they're on dry land, classifying into buckets. So it's a different course. Sometimes we can do that here, but generally I find myself in the watercourse and find it easier just to use the water of the river to classify. Well, I hope you enjoyed me rambling on about classifiers. Whether you think I'm talking rubbish or not is up to you. But I know what I've been doing for years and it seems to be working okay. Well, thanks for watching. Till the next one.